Hi, I'm James from Bellrock. I help leaders understand the intersection of where risk meets people. At an executive and a board level, a lot of organisations discuss psychological safety almost like it's a cultural objective. That's fine, but I think what it fails to understand or fails to consider is the fact that psychosocial hazards don't just mysteriously emerge out of nowhere. They've got a clear causation pathway and they generally occur from the way that the work is organised, led and structured. When you see sustained increases in workers' compensation costs, elevated absenteeism and staff turnover, these are clear indicators that something in the system that the organisation has created isn't working as planned. From a governance perspective, psychological safety is not just a well-being issue, it's a core operational and potential financial risk that the board and the senior executives of an organisation must be across and must receive information on to make sure that they're able to effectively assure themselves and satisfy themselves that the organisation is meeting its duties in relation to the Work Health and Safety Act. I think that the real opportunity for organisations to really focus on preventative, proactive risk controls in relation to psychological safety, rather than just policy or training controls alone, really lie in what they call workplace design. But for me, the three core elements of workplace design that really matter when it comes to the board and executive and what they need to know in that space, I believe relate to workload, autonomy and role clarity. Firstly, workload. This isn't about how busy people feel, but it's about realistically, does the organisation have the resources adequately and effectively aligned to its operational demands or its operational requirements? Secondly, decision making. Where the organisation has overly centralised decision-making processes, this can create bottlenecks and friction, which can ultimately create the latent conditions for psychosocial hazards in an organisation. And thirdly, role clarity. If roles, responsibilities and ultimately accountability are not clearly understood, the organisation creates friction in every layer of decision-making, and again, I believe creates this latent propensity or latent conditions for psychosocial hazards to eventuate. So they're the three core elements of work design that I believe boards and executives need to place much more emphasis on in order to understand what's really going on in the organisation and to establish what are the pressure points or what are the signals that the organisation is giving off that may indicate deterioration of psychological safety conditions in the workplace. So ultimately, the most important or pertinent, I guess, is the term question that boards and executives need to ask themselves is, do we understand where the pressure is building in our organisation? And if not, how can we find out early rather than when it manifests in lag indicators like claims, elevated turnover and absenteeism?